Hey everybody, I got a video response for some of the emails and eBay messages I've been getting. It sounds like people are being told that this piece of Dutch hardware is not compatible with this Dyneema webbing that I offer. So these buckles will work 100% with the webbing that I offer. If you're being told that it won't work, then you're being told wrong. So these are called cinch bugs. And when I first started offering the webbing, I actually had 3 different samples that I purchased from the Dyneema company, and I tested them with these cinch bugs. And when I first offered this webbing, the beetle buckles were not available, but I have also now tested these with the beetle buckles in it. They work exactly the same. So slippage isn't an issue, I can tell you that much, because I've already pull tested these well beyond 1,000 pounds with 0 slippage. The issue that people would possibly get is the webbing folding up inside of the buckle. And when that can happen would be when you pull this toggle out to make your adjustments. So with the Dutch webbing like this, when you make an adjustment on here, you have to take the toggle, pull it out, and then either pull on this side or pull on this side to make your adjustment. But with the 2.4 webbing that I offer, all you have to do is grab the toggle and pull the webbing. So if I grab the toggle, I can pull the webbing this way, or I can pull the webbing this way. I don't have to take the toggle and pull it out and then go pull on this and pull on this a few inches at a time. I can just grab the toggle and pull it wherever I want to go. So by that action, it's passing the webbing through these openings and maintaining the flatness of the webbing. So it's actually going to be difficult to get the webbing to fold up in here, or to get the webbing to give you a problem, unless you're simply just not paying attention to what's going on. As long as the webbing comes in at this angle and exits at this angle, it's going to work perfectly fine. So if you're just grabbing the webbing and messing around with it and just grabbing the toggle and trying to do something, yeah, the webbing can get messed up in there. But the whole thing is, if you pull the toggle and do a little sliding like this, you will get an automatic flattening out of the webbing. So even if visually you see a little issue here with the webbing, you can simply grab the toggle and slide the webbing in one direction, and by action of going through these openings, the webbing will flatten out and align itself with the buckle. Here's the Dutch poly Dyneema webbing, and when you make the adjustment here, you have to pull the toggle out, and then pull the line in these little increments. And so because of that, I can see where people might think, oh, if I'm pulling my Dyneema webbing out like this and doing these little adjustments, then eventually the webbing could get folded. But with the Dyneema webbing, it's more convenient. You just grab the toggle and slide it. And with this webbing, you can sort of do that. Not really. Like I'm digging holes into my hands by doing this. So with a thicker webbing, you have to pull the toggle out and then pull either this side or this side to get it to work. So with either type of webbing, the thin Dyneema or the thicker stuff, you're still going to have a bit of inconvenience and pay attention to what's going on. With this one, you have to pull the toggle out and then pull this side or this side. And with this one, you just have to visually check that the webbing is in there perfectly. So it's true for either webbing. You're going to have some intuition as a hammock hanger and make sure everything's right. So yeah, the webbing could possibly fold up in there, so you just have to pay attention to that. But you're going to be able to pay attention to that because you're not sitting here and having to do this, pull the toggle out, pull the webbing in. So it's kind of a give and take. Either way, you're going to have to kind of pay attention to what's going on. When I made the decision to offer a Dyneema webbing for hammock suspension, I actually bought several different samples. These 2 are from the Sovetel Rope Company, and this one is actually from USA, from Sailrite Sailing. And with these, and also with the Dutch Spider webbing, I've had the same issue of super loose weave. You can see this weave on the Sailrite 3,500 pound stuff. This is one of my 4,000 pound 1 millimeter thick samples. And then this is actually the white version of what Dutch ware now sells as spider web. You can see the webbing on this. Even the little calluses on my hands pop the weave open. It's a loose weave, and like this is just a smooth Delrin rod, but it opens the weave up. The weave just opens up, and the same thing with the Dutch ware gear. This stuff right here that I have, it's the same weight per foot and the exact same weave visually, but the weave is just really loose. I mean, it still works as a hammock webbing, but this type of weave is designed to be sewn up against a backing material. That's why this type of stuff is produced. So after purchasing all these samples, and then finally getting this one, this is the one I chose because it worked with this Dutch ware gear. So I have spent the time and effort to make sure this webbing works with these. I'm actually kind of surprised that Dutch ware went with this stuff, the looser weave stuff, and didn't just get this weave, because this weave works better on his buckles. It's almost like it's a membrane. It's so resistant to being punctured. This piece right here that I'm testing on the buckle, I've had in use for several months, and that's why it's had several knots tied along the whole distance, so it's kind of shrunken up. But a brand new piece of this webbing has a nicer body and will feed even better through this little piece of Dutch ware. Now, if you're wanting to use this thin webbing and you really have a problem with it folding up in here, or you think it's going to be a problem, notice this opening right here is fairly wide. It's designed for this thick webbing. Here's a trick you can do to use thin webbing, and you can even use the Dutch ware spider gear if you want. Get one of these from Bias Gear, and then get a toggle. For the toggle, you can use a Dutch ridgeline beaner. You can actually use a piece of 3/16 am steel. You would obviously want to do it as a loop. And so check this out. Take your Bias Gear piece right here. The thing about the Bias Gear piece is it's designed for one strand of webbing. So this opening is nice and thin. So the potential issue of running my 0.5 millimeter webbing through here comes from that opening being thick. So go through your Bias Gear piece. Basically, you're doing the same thing as what the Dutch ware piece is. Get yourself your toggle. For this, I'm going to use a Dutch beaner, but you can use lots of other stuff. So I'm going through my toggle, then I'll go back through, and as you can see, this is a lot snugger on my webbing, which will solve the issue of the potential webbing folding in the buckle. And I actually put that toggle on backwards. So check this out. Now you have a clone of a buckle made from the Bias Gear, I believe it's called a strap anchor, and then for the toggle we've used this. I've actually tested this setup using a piece of am steel as the toggle, which makes a ridiculously lightweight buckle setup. And now check out how thin that is. Now the webbing, you won't ever have an issue of the webbing possibly folding up in there, and this is easy to adjust because the webbing is smooth. And you can just grab the toggle and pull the webbing this way, or pull the webbing that way, and then when this thing loads up, it will lock off just like a regular buckle. You can just put your continuous loop on there, just like with the... One thing is, I don't like this little pointy part. It always catches the am steel. This one from Bias Gear, I actually like it better. It is a little thicker, so it might be a couple grams heavier, but it's so much nicer on the am steel. I mean, look at that. You can just like run up and hook it. I've never really liked this little, it's like snaggy. and you have to, it's kind of small. I mean, it works okay, but see right there, it just always wants to grab the am steel right there. Even when I take it off, it kind of always just wants to. So it's just like with anything, there's always that little bit of inconvenience. This is so much more convenient, and now you have a cool little buckle system. Alright, thanks for watching. Check out my next video for Kevlar webbing.